morning, church. I'll be reading from 1 Samuel chapter 20, verses 1 to 17. David and Jonathan. Then David fled from Naioth at Ramah and went to Jonathan and asked, "What have I done? What is my crime? How have I wronged your father that he is trying to kill me?" "Never," Jonathan replied. "You are not going to die. Look, my father doesn't do anything, great or small, without letting me know. Why would he hide this from me? It isn't so." But David took an oath and said, "Your father knows very well that I have found favor in your eyes." And he has said to himself, "Jonathan must not know this, or he will be grieved. Yet as surely as the Lord lives and as you live, there is only a step between me and death." Jonathan said to David, "Whatever you want me to do, I'll do for you." So David said, "Look, tomorrow is the new moon feast, and I am supposed to dine with the king. But let me go and hide in the field until the evening of the day after tomorrow. If your father misses me at all, tell him, 'David earnestly asked my permission to hurry to Bethlehem, his hometown, because an annual sacrifice is being made there for his whole clan.' If he says, 'Very well,' then your servant is safe. But if he loses his temper, you can be sure that he is determined to harm me. As for you, show kindness to your servant, for you have brought him into a covenant with you before the Lord. If I am guilty, then kill me yourself. Why hand me over to your father?" "Never," Jonathan said. "If I had the least inkling that my father was determined to harm you, wouldn't I tell you?" David asked, "Who will tell me if your father answers you harshly?" "Come," Jonathan said, "let's go out into the field." So they went there together. Then Jonathan said to David, "I swear by the Lord, the God of Israel, that I will surely sound out my father by this time the day after tomorrow. If he is favorably disposed toward you, will I not send you word and let you know? But if my father intends to harm you, may the Lord deal with Jonathan, be it ever so severely, if I do not let you know and send you away in peace. May the Lord be with you, as he has been with my father. But show me unfailing kindness, like the Lord's kindness, as long as I live, so that I may not be killed. And do not ever cut off your kindness from my family, not even when the Lord has cut off every one of David's enemies from the face of the earth." So Jonathan made a covenant with the house of David, saying, "May the Lord call David's enemies into account." And Jonathan had David reaffirm his oath out of love for him, because he loved him as he loved himself.
Good morning, everyone. Good to see you all. We are continuing in our series called Heart for the House. And today I want to speak about community to you. Community. It's amazing how so many of the greatest TV series over the last couple of years have all been about community. If you were around in the 80s, you would have remembered. I wasn't, but I remember this kind of vaguely. Growing up, I could see Cheers, the bar where everyone knows your name, and this bunch of friends would always meet there, and that's kind of all I remember about it. But I knew it was really popular. And then what I do remember was the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, West Philadelphia, born and raised on the playground, spending most of my days. But Will Smith gets adopted by this family, and he's got this family and friends. Jazzy Jeff, who's part of this kind of this family. It's all about their community. And then you definitely will remember Friends. I don't have a picture of Friends, but Friends was a really popular one, right? That's the South African version of Friends. This is Generations. Generations, anybody watch Generations? It was about like this family and siblings, and they were all in some sort of TV industry together. And then for the younger people, there was Lost. Remember Lost? A bunch of people, a plane crashed, and then they were all on the island together. And it was all about relationships. And so it's as if pop culture knows that we are created for community. There's something about our ability to make friends, to need relationships, to be in community that's almost transcultural, that is almost ahistorical. Doesn't matter which historical epoch you look at, people form communities and they need friendships. And I think that's because we are made in the image of a God who is relational. And because we're made in this image of a God who's relational, we too are relational. And we have this intrinsic desire for relationships. And so I want to speak today about our desire for community and how we can, number one, see that there's a real need for community. Number two, that there's a real privilege to community. Number three, there's a responsibility in maintaining that community. And then I want to give you some practical steps towards community. So number one, the need for community. Now, David and Jonathan's friendship really does showcase what Christian community, what the local church could look like. It showcases this deep affection between two people, and they love each other deeply. And they love each other so much that I would put it to you that David wouldn't have even become king if it wasn't for Jonathan. David wouldn't have entered into his destiny if it wasn't for the sacrifices that Jonathan made for him. Verse 4 says, Jonathan said to David, "Whatever you want me to do, I'll do for you. Whatever you want me to do, I'll do for you." David needed Jonathan like Naomi needed Ruth, like Timothy needed Paul, like Moses needed Aaron, like Snoop Dogg needed Dr. Dre, like Michael Jordan needed Scottie Pippen, like Suzelle DIY needed Marianne. You remember that one? We need the local church. You need people in your corner that are willing to say, whatever you want me to do, I'll do for you. Whatever you want to do, I'll do for you. Now, I know automatically you're going to say, yeah, I've got friends like that. They're like, whatever you want to do, bro, I'm there. Shots, I'm there. Like, I'm not talking about that type of whatever you want me to do, right? Did he break up with you? Oh, my word, you want us to go and slash his tires? Whatever you want me to do, girl, I'm there. I'm not talking about that kind of whatever you want me to do. I'm talking about, like, whatever you want me to do in the Lord. Somebody that's going to walk with you and say to you, whatever it takes for you to enter into your destiny, for what God has got for you, I'm willing to do that. Somebody that's going to be there to encourage you, remind you of who you are in Jesus. Somebody that's going to remind you that your present circumstances is not who you are, doesn't define you, that your past doesn't define you, that there's a purpose on your life, that God's called you and He's got something special for you. And whatever it takes, that person's going to walk with you through thick and thin. They're going to love you and they're going to care for you. That is what the church provides for us. It provides people who are willing to do this with us, to walk with us, and to make sure that we end up doing what God's called us to do. We're not called to do everything that we potentially can do. Jesus could have done a whole lot of things, right? He's the Son of God, but He had a mission. There was some particular things that he came to do, and when He died, He said it was finished. Not everything that He could potentially do was finished, but the thing that He was supposed to do was finished. Just like that, you too have got a destiny and a purpose. And David was gifted, but the gifts weren't enough for him to enter into his destiny. David was called by God to be king, but the calling wasn't enough. He needed the right people around him. He needed Jonathan. So do we. We need the church. And we're made like that. We're designed like that. You remember lockdown, that horrible period of our lives? And how, it wasn't long into lockdown when I remembered I actually hate online meetings. Like, it was terrible. I mean, it was fun, like doing business at the top and pajamas at the bottom. That part was nice, right? You remember that? And like muting and then doing something else in the background. That was nice. You can't do that in a real meeting. But generally, it was horrible. You just felt so isolated. In fact, I'll put it to you that isolation is a form of torture. That's what they do to prisoners. They put them in confinement. They take them away from everyone else. And when you're taken away from everyone else, your brain shuts down. You fall apart. You start to lose it, actually. And so you're made for community. We're made in the image of a relational God to be in relationship with other people. I love the way John put it. He says, listen, I've got much to write to you, but I don't want to use paper and ink and Zoom calls and emails and WhatsApps. No. Instead, I hope to visit you and talk with you face to face. I want to be able to see you, and I want you to be able to see me, and then we can talk face to face so that our joy may be complete. We have an innate desire for community. It's a need that's built into each one of us. And you can only find fulfillment for that need in God and in the people of God. God has put that desire in us, and He's also given us the vehicle through which to satisfy that need, which is the local church. And so Jesus reveals something of the Father to us, and the Holy Spirit comes and presences Himself with us and reveals something of the joy and glory of the triune God. And because God is Trinity, because He is a community of love, and He has no need for anything outside of Himself. He was all happy. Even before you and I came along, God was contented. He was in this community of love, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. He had no need for anyone else. Nothing. He's not a God who made us because He needed us. No. He invites us into Himself to share in His love and in His joy. But because we're made in this image of this triune relational God, we too have a desire for relationship. Jesus, coming to reveal what the Father is like, says, Father, I want those you have given me to be with me where I am and see my glory. He loves us so much. He said, I just want them to come with me right away. I want them to be with me where I am. The glory you have given me because you loved me before the creation of the world. And then God sends the Holy Spirit. And we love the Holy Spirit. The Spirit of God is nothing like the Spirit of God that brings about liberty, that brings about joy and freedom, that fills our hearts so that we can know the depth of His loves for us. The Holy Spirit does that and reveals God's love for us. You are made for community. And you can only find your purpose, you can only find satisfaction for that longing, that internal craving that God has put in you, in God, and in the people of God, in the community of God. So number one, the need for community. Number two, the privilege of community. In verse 17, it says, Jonathan had David reaffirm his oath out of love for him, because he loved him as he loved himself. Jonathan loved David as he loved himself. And this friendship is a friendship of complete acceptance. It's a friendship of commitment to each other. And at the end of the chapter, when the one has to leave, Jonathan and David end up crying together. They kissed each other and they wept together. But David wept most. Big crybaby David. But they loved each other. Hey? They were united in heart and in spirit. And I love this because, it shows that they were sad to lose this thing. There was a benefit to this relationship. And there was a sadness when the relationship kind of was parted for a while. They cry, they weep. I was part of a group called the Spice Boys before I became a Christian. And it was almost a gang, almost a real gang. But not really. But I knew something of the sense of belonging that you get. And I knew something of the sense of being committed and loyal to a group of people and having their commitment and loyalty to me. And so when I became a Christian, it wasn't like a foreign concept to me to have a group of people that love each other. And it was really cool. But in fact, I was surprised by the love that I experienced in the church. The church was like a proper gang. We were like proper gangsters for Jesus. Because there was deeper commitment within the church. There was like what David and Jonathan experienced, where Jonathan said, I love him as I love myself. I love him as I love myself. That's the kind of love that I experienced in the church. And so it was a far deeper sense of commitment and fellowship between us in the church. Jesus said, when he was asked what was the most important commandment, Jesus summarized the law and the prophets. He summarized the 10 commandments into 2 commandments. He said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, your mind, all your strength. The second is this, love your neighbor as yourself. That's exactly what Jonathan did. That's exactly what I experienced. And it's radical. When people love like they love themselves, like provide for others as you provide for yourself. Care for others as you care for yourself. Speak up for others who are in the church, your Christian brothers and sisters, as you speak up for yourself. That's the kind of love that we experience in the church, and it's a huge benefit. And it even changed how I thought about leadership. Before becoming a Christian, I used to think about leadership in a very different way. But you know, in the Bible, church leaders don't even use the word leadership very much. They hardly use the word leadership in the Bible. What you do find is Paul, the apostle, saying, I'm a father to Timothy, my apprentice. He's like a son to me. I'm not like some distant authority figure that just gives out commandments, and I've got executive authority and you need to do. No. I care for you like a father cares for a son. I'm going to look after you. I'm going to protect you. I'm going to provide. I'm going to lead as if you're part of my family. That's the way that leadership gets changed when you love yourself, when you love others the way you love yourself. Paul, writing to a church in Thessalonica, says, just as a nursing mother cares for her children, so he cared for you. It's precious. Just as a nursing mother. Man, a mother is ferocious in the way she loves her child. Paul says, that's how I care for you. That's how we lead you. We were like, you get mothered in the church. You get fathered in the church. I wonder if you're experiencing that. I wonder if you're experiencing getting brothered in the church, having brothers, having sisters, people that love you deeply, care for you deeply, that you can be completely open with, completely real with. Like at 2 o'clock in the morning, do you have somebody that you can call? I'm not talking about people that know you are friends with you on social media. That's redefining friendship. That's not what the Bible means by friendship. Like not the Instagram version of you. I'm talking about when the wheels are coming off and you're fighting at home, or when everything is going wrong, all hell's breaking loose. Do you have somebody that really knows you, that knows the struggles that you have? Do you have somebody that you can speak to, that loves you as you love yourself, and that you love as you love yourself? That's what we are called to. Now, this benefit of love and community that we experience in the church comes with a set of responsibilities to maintain it, right? So here are a couple of responsibilities. Number one, the first responsibility is to spur one another on. Jonathan didn't only see David as who he was in the moment. In the moment, David was a fugitive on the run. In the moment, David was an enemy to the state. He was a threat to Jonathan's father. David is not seen by Jonathan through that lens, though. Jonathan sees David as who God is making him and who he's becoming. Jonathan sees David through the lens that God has given him, and sees him as this king, this future king that's going to be a blessing to the people of Israel. And even though Jonathan is the prince and the rightful heir to the throne, Jonathan wants David to become the next king. And he says it in lots of different ways in this passage. I'll give you one example. In verse 13 it says, "May the Lord be with you as he has been with my father." His father was a king, and he's saying that God will anoint you to become the next king, and may God be with you. And so he's rooting for David. He doesn't see David as who he is. And so growing in holiness doesn't happen in any other context than in the context of community and local church. At the beginning of every year, we all set targets that we want to grow. And so we go to the gyms, we start to exercise, and we want to grow spiritually also. And one of the ways to accomplish that growth is by getting involved in local community, in people that will remind you of who you are becoming, remind you of the goals that you yourself have set for yourself, and keep speaking that to you. People that will remind you that God is for you, not against you, that you're the head, not the tail, that you're forgiven when you feel like you've messed up way too much, that God's got a purpose and a destiny for you, and that will even sacrifice to go to lengths so that you can enter into your destiny, so that God can achieve all that He's got for you. And so it's so important for us to treat our kids, to treat our employees, to treat our friends, to treat our Christian community not like who they are right now, but who they are becoming in God. To view them through the eyes of Jesus and go, I can see who you're becoming. And sometimes even to hold you accountable to that and to challenge you to step into more, because God has got more for you. You can see the end goal. You can see who Jesus is creating the person to be. And so you keep reminding them, hey, listen, press on, brother. Press on, sister. Come on. God loves you. God's for you. When I got married, I wore a top hat to my wedding and a tailcoat. And I thought it was cool at the time. It really wasn't. It wasn't in fashion at the time. It was literally my 4 friends that we thought it was cool. Like I had 4 friends, 5 friends, and we were all engineers. And so, you know what engineers are like with fashion. So I wore this top hat and the tailcoat. And you know what? Like, I look back at my wedding pictures now and I just think, yo, bro, somebody should have said something to me. I mean, we spent so much money on that photographer. It's like Charlie in the Chocolate Factory. You know what I mean? Fiddler on the roof. I look like a Jewish guy. It's somebody, you know, the local church should be a place where somebody goes, that's not it. That's not it for you. You know, you're made for something more. God's called you for something greater. Okay? And they're not shy to challenge you to step into that. In Greek mythology, there's the sirens. They're like mermaid-like figures. And it comes up in different versions in the movies today and in older classical books. But the sirens would come and they'd start singing. And when they start singing, the sailors would get enchanted. And mainly the captains who were driving the ships, they would get enchanted and they'd go and, you know, wreck the ships and the sirens would turn on them. And so in the stories, in Greek mythology, what would happen is the captain would tie himself to a mast so he doesn't have he can't like steer the ship. And then the others would close their ears. And then together they would be able to navigate this tempting siren song. And that's a picture of what the local church is like. You're going to have moments where you want to wear a top hat to something. And you're tempted by something silly. You're going to have moments where you're completely not thinking straight about things. And you're going to need Christian community who can see a bit more clearly, who are not kind of caught up by the temptation that you're caught up by, who are not in the grip of a lure as you are. And they're going to say to you, no, take your hand off the wheel, that you're going the wrong way. It's like when you go bowling. Have you ever gone bowling and you bowled so badly? I mean, I'm talking about me, but like it goes into the other lane. Have you ever had that? Like like I've seen somebody else do it, and then you know the guardrails come up automatically. They don't even ask you. It's an awkward conversation. It just comes up. Somebody saw it happen. You almost injured somebody with a bowling ball, and then zoop, the guardrails. Why is the guardrails going up? Because they want to stop accidents from happening, right? They want to stop you from bowling somebody. So the guardrails come up. That's what Christian community is like. That's what friendship is like. Your friends will lead you inevitably. Because friendship is the place where you open yourself. Because friendship is the place where you find acceptance and love. You are influenced inevitably by the people that accept you. That's just how it works. Birds of a feather flock together. Your parents knew this, and it's true. And so friends lead you, guide you. Guardrails are there to protect you, to lead and guide you. Now, you can end up going off the rails with a bunch of friends who accept you and love you, but they're not the right group, and so they're leading and guiding into the wrong things. Or you can invest in the local church, into Christian friendship, Christ-centered friendships, where people prioritize you becoming all that God has wanted for you to become. And these guardrails can come into place to stop you sometimes from doing something that's wrong. Guardrails on the side of bridges are there so that if people, make an accident, the accident still happens, but the accident could be bigger if they went off the bridge. And so the guardrails are there to make sure that it's just a small accident, not a very big accident. The guardrails protect you sometimes. We'll still make mistakes, but the friendships are there to protect us and make sure that we don't make bigger mistakes that cost us way more than what we can pay. And so it all requires that we are responsible with our friendships, that we make sure that we're speaking into the lives of other people, that we make sure that we are constantly seeing others as Jesus sees them and calling out the gold in them, reminding them of their hope, reminding them of their purpose. When they're down, picking them up, like the friends that paralytic had in the Gospels that dug out the roof to get their friend to Jesus. We need friends, crazy friends, who are going to dig out things in us so they can bring us to Jesus and get us close to Him and get us healed. That's the kind of friendship that we need, but it requires us being responsible and constantly spurring one another on. And then, secondly, the second responsibility is to develop a high view of church membership. Now, many today have a low view of church membership. And in some cases, this is completely understandable. I know many people who have been hurt by toxic church culture. And I actually don't want to speak to that type of person. I want to speak to a different type of person. I want to speak to the type of person who has never really become part of the center of a local church, who's always really been on the peripheral of different local churches. And I want to call that type of person to have a high view of the local church. And so I want to give you a couple of reasons why. Just firstly, think about a marriage when a husband and a wife say their vows to each other. You know, they're committing through thick and thin till death us do part. It's a commitment where they are completely committed to each other. And in that relationship, those commitments offer a sense of security and stability. When a father says to a child, I'm never going to leave you. I'm never going to leave you. For many of you, you might have needed to hear that. Maybe you didn't have that. You know how powerful that is. I will stick with you through everything, thick and thin. That creates a sense of stability in your life. And in the same way, when we come together as a church, we say, listen, I'm for this thing. Now, it's not exactly the same. It's not exactly the same as a marriage. You're not entering into a lifetime covenant with a church. You can leave and move, and you're free to do those kinds of things. But on the other end, it's not flirting around with lots of different churches also. There's a one extreme over there where it's covenantal and forever. There's the other extreme over here where it's just, I can just visit this one and I can visit this one. I saw one time somebody wrote on a card, what church you part of? And they wrote on the card, I'm part of the Universal Church of God. And then they said, and I asked, which congregation? They said, the global congregation. And I was just like, wow, okay. So, that's an extreme view of, we have a very low view of the local church, and it produces instability. Let me give you 3 biblical reasons why church membership is so important. Number 1, all the metaphors in the Bible speak to people having intimate belonging. Okay, stones in the temple were stones built together, cemented together. Not even just a pile of stones that are together, but loosely. No, cemented together. Certainly not stones that are just flung out all over the yard. No. Stones built together, forming a temple in which God's presence lives. Members of a family. Okay, families live together. Families do dishes together. Families eat together. Families travel together. Families go on holiday together. It's together. That speaks to we're together in this. When we're not, it's not some casual relationship. No. We're together. Parts of a body in 1 Corinthians. Now, if your arm is like over there and your leg is over there and the other leg is here sometimes, but other times it's over there and then it's here and then it's there and then it goes there, but then it's back here again. What type of body do you have? You got a dismembered body, okay? A body that doesn't really work well. A body that can't move, can't fulfill its purpose and its destiny. And so all of these metaphors are speaking to membership, joining together. Okay, secondly, we see in the Bible, particularly in the New Testament, lists of identifiable members in local congregations. Identifiable members in local congregations. I'm going to give you a couple of examples from Romans chapter 16. The chapter is very long, but you are identifiable members in a local context, and people knew stuff about them. People know them well. Greet Priscilla and Aquila, my co-workers in Christ Jesus. Greet my dear friend Epaphras. Greet Mary, who worked very hard for you. Right? They knew Mary. Mary was the one. Mary, man. We all know Mary. She works very hard. Yeah, that one, Mary, yeah. Identifiable. They knew who Mary was. Greet Andronicus and Junior. Greet Urbanus. I left out all the ones that I couldn't pronounce, so that just to make it shorter. Our co-worker in Christ. Greet Apollos, whose fidelity to Christ has stood the test. Right? They knew stuff about each other. Greet Tryphena and Tryphosa, those women who work hard in the Lord. Greet my dear friend Persis, another woman who has worked very hard in the Lord. Greet Rufus, chosen in the Lord, and his mother. Don't forget about it, but Rufus's mother. Hey, remember Rufus's mother? Yeah, she's amazing. Rufus's mother, who has been a mother to me too. Hey, listen, this is close. This is identifiable. This is stuff we know. We were on the battle together, so we know. We remember when you worked very hard and how you led me, and you who are a mother to me. This is identifiable, and this speaks to membership. And then one last example in Hebrews chapter 13, we see that pastors have to give an account to God. I have to give an account to God for the people that I lead. And so I need to know the people that I lead if I'm going to give an account to the people that I lead, which is why I have to tell you to get involved in the church so I can get to know you. So it says in chapter 13, verse 17, have confidence in your leaders and submit to their authority because they keep watch over you as those who must give an account. So church membership is not an eternal, forever covenant. It's not like that. You don't find that in the text. But you do find language that says we're together. We're not just, we're not just here and there and everywhere. We're not just loosely kind of on the fringes. No, we're together for it. And then, lastly, we need to die to individualism. So many today are not committed to church membership, not because they don't see it in the Bible. There's something deeper. There's an individualism in the culture that gets into the way that we do church. And so we don't pursue church membership because we're committed to ourselves. We're not committed to the group, not this group, not pretty much any group, because we are committed to ourselves. Our friendships come first, our hobbies comes first, our careers come first, our whatever comes first, kids comes first. But we are not loving others as we love ourselves. We love ourselves more than anything else. That's at the heart of this thing of individualism. Some people are even part of local churches. They're part of a life group. But it's possible to be part of a church, to be part of a life group, and to constantly be thinking about yourself. In the group, but you're constantly thinking about yourself. You're operating out of an individualistic mindset, but it's about me. And so you having life group, and you're kind of on the periphery of life. Sometimes you come to life group, sometimes you don't. And in the life group culture, or the church culture, can actually revolve around individualism. And so we say stuff like, you come when you're able to. Like when you can make it, you can just come whenever you're able to. Like, you want to come to church once every year? It's fantastic. Come when you're able. Whenever you're able, you're so welcome to come. Or you know what? You can leave when you want to leave. Absolutely. Go and visit around. shop around. Do you. You do you, boo. We actually say stuff like that to each other. You can watch. You want to watch online? You can watch online. Stay on. That's the same thing as being face to face. No, it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. We're called not to simply be in a group, but actually to share of ourselves in deep ways so that we give an expression to those metaphors of the Bible, being a body, being a family, like being known and knowing. And so church can sometimes fail us because of individualism. And it's not that church is failing us, it's that sin has shot through our understanding of what relationships ought to look like. And so we don't get everything that we can get out of it. We don't grow as we ought to be growing out of it. We don't experience the friendships, this deep, warm, self-sacrificial friendships that we ought to be experiencing, because we've got kind of treating church like a car dealership. I'm looking for a life group that's like 30 and 31 years old, former supermodels only, and then, like just singles group only. It's so specific. And that individualism it can actually get into our way of treating other people. We can sometimes become very picky. If you're single, you can become very picky, ultra picky. It's good to be picky. Not ultra individualistically picky about a future spouse. Individualism can creep into everything. I had a family once that said to me, Ryan, you're the pastor, can you please come pray for this child, man, at home? His child is misbehaving. They're not into God, and they don't love like going to church. But this family, for years and years, had been erratic in church attendance, had been on the periphery for years and years. And so they'd been discipling the child, who's now a teenager, into understanding church and faith as something that is not that important. For years and years, through their actions, they've been saying is not that important. Don't worry about it. And then when the child becomes a teenager, call the pastor to come and pray and work some sort of miracle. No, individualism has got a long feedback loop. But in the end, it always leads to isolation. It always causes us to not grow and experience community as we ought. Okay, so we're called to be responsible with our community. And how do we do that? How do we die to individualism? It's not like, I'm going to do better this time, and I'm going to, no, it's look at Jesus. Look at Jonathan. Jonathan loved David. He loved David as he loved himself. What does that remind you of? He's the prince. He's supposed to become the next king. But even as the prince, he lays down his crown. He says, you know, it's for you. Who does that remind you of? Who called you a friend and then said, I'm going to lay down my life for my friends? Jesus. Jesus is the one who was not only the son of Saul, he's the son of God. And he comes and he empties himself of glory for me, for you. Wonderful. He's the one who didn't only sacrifice and put himself in the position of opposition, where, you know, Jonathan had opposition from his dad. His dad hurled a spear at him just in the previous chapter. Jesus was opposed by men and demons, and he was hung on a cross for me, for you. That's what he did. Look at him who gave everything, absolutely everything, and held nothing back so that you could be his very own child. He made you a child of God. He emptied himself of you. He prioritized you. And he's the one who destroys individualism in us. So, let me end with just 4 quick practical steps towards community. The gospel pushes us into community. And so here's how you can make it practical. Number 1, we're having this Hospitality Sunday coming up. Underneath your chair, you're probably sitting on it, but there's a form. And on this form, it will tell you to either host somebody for Hospitality Sunday. It's a Sunday lunch happening on the 19th. So some of you have got nice big houses like me. We're going to have people over, and we're going to fill in the I want to be a host part. And just let us know how many people you can host. And some of you are the lucky ones. You're coming to eat. You're going to just come and be hosted. That's amazing. And you're going to fill in the I want to be hosted part. And what we're going to do on the 19th, we're going to be hanging out with people that we don't yet know. People, you know, this is not, don't invite your best friends over. Invite people you don't yet know. There's loads of new people always amongst us. Let's get to know some others. Make the circle bigger. And let's do community, because Jesus has called us, has loved us. This is a small step towards loving others as we love ourselves. So please do consider signing that and then handing it at the info table. Number 2, you can come to a Get Connected. Our Get Connected is all about our membership. It shares some of the vision and values. You get to look under the hood of the car, what makes us tick, what's important. Ask difficult questions, meet some of the leaders. We're having one immediately after the service in the boardroom. Come along to that. There's one that happens every month. But please do consider becoming a member over here, or finding a church that you can really plug into 100% and becoming a member wherever God is leading you. And then number 3, join a life group. If you're not in a life group yet, life groups are small groups that meet midweek in homes. And so this meeting is fantastic. It's a celebration. It's awesome. But it's hard to sometimes make friends in this big group. So we want you to go deeper with some people. And the way that you can do that is by getting into a life group. Now, we want to help you to get into a life group. And so at the info counter, we've got a sign-up sheet. Let us know which area you live in. Give us a contact detail, and we're going to give your contact details to a leader in that area, and they're going to get hold of you, or as close as we can. So that's going to be a fantastic way to go a little bit deeper. Next step to building community. And then lastly, serving teams. Join a serving team. We know that some people are wired to serve, and as they serve, they get to know people. So I'm wired a bit like that, and so as I'm doing stuff, it's fantastic. I get to know you as I'm doing stuff. And so if you're that type of person, please do consider serving team. Even if you are in a life group and you've got extra time, please consider joining a serving team. It's a great way to get to know people. We're going to have tables out with the serving team leaders, and they'll tell you a little bit more about what they do and how you can get involved. So please do consider joining a serving team. God is building community amongst us, and He wants to draw us close to Himself and close to each other. That's at the heart of the gospel. it's being reconciled to God and reconciled to each other. And so let's put that into practice this year and, join a serving team or a life group or call a friend out for coffee this week. But let's pursue community as we grow in our heart for the house. Can we stand and pray together? Worship team, won't you come on up?